Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. We are going to talk about Iran. I guess it just ordered an attack on Israel, which I felt was inevitable. But we're going to talk about some of the details. I'll just give it a minute for some people to join. So just one of those days, one of those months. It's been a crazy month. Someone reminded me that another big event that happened this month was that Biden dropped out of the race. So the big things that I'm tracking, he had Hurricane Beryl, the earliest to develop to a Category 5 in the Atlantic. We had the Trump assassination attempt. We had the horrible, grotesque display at the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. Salt Lake was chosen on Pioneer Day to be the host of the 2034 Winter Olympics. And now we have the leader of Hamas that was killed, along with a top leader of Hezbollah within the same 24 hours. And so, it's the last day of July. This second half of the year has started with a bang. It really has. All right, so we have Carrie Cottrell, certainly a time of wars and rumors of wars. Yep. Alma Perry, both sides are playing a dangerous game of escalation. I'm just glad that I'm not in a position where I have to make those kind of decisions. I'm glad that I'm not in the Israeli government or any other government, because these are big decisions that are being made that can have some pretty dire consequences, especially if this somehow escalates into World War III. Dee Staub, hi Jared, how much did I miss? Not much. We just started. M James, I think we have all known that it wasn't really going to stop. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. That very first day when it started, when I got the alerts on my phone and I saw that there was a rocket attack on October 7th, and then when we saw the model or the hobby rocket fall out of the sky as we were doing a drive that morning, from that moment, I felt like this is probably it. That this is probably the war. Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we have 76 right now. Let's switch over to this. Iran's leader orders attack on on Israel for Haniyeh killing, officials say. This is New York Times. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has issued an order for Iran to strike Israel directly in retaliation for the killing in Tehran of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, according to 3 Iranian officials briefed on the order. Mr. Khamenei gave the order at an emergency meeting of Iran's Supreme National Security Council on Wednesday morning, shortly after Iran announced that Mr. Haniyeh had been killed, said the 3 Iranian officials. Yeah, so I remember that last night. I had stayed up late. I checked X, and they were talking about this really rare emergency meeting that had been called because of the killing of Haniyeh. And I knew at that moment, just because of what happened in April in that huge direct attack on Israel from Iran in April, that this was going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but I really think it's going to be the same thing, if not bigger than what we saw in April. So it's going to be interesting to see if Israel and its allies are able to be as successful as they were in April, because I think it was in the video that I made for this evening. We went over an article that talked about that. There was an article that came out, or a few articles that came out in June, talking about Israel's Iron Dome system being overwhelmed. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do. And it'll be interesting to see whenever this happens. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened today, honestly. Let me see. Of course, that's Khamenei right there, the one that gave the order. I have another article from New York Times. Let me pull that up. Strikes in Iran and Lebanon raise risk of escalation, but all-out war is not inevitable. Well, yeah, I guess there's always a slight chance that things won't become an all-out war. I guess anything's possible, but I don't know. Put in the chat. What do you think? What percent chance do you think? No, let's do like just a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being it's absolutely going to happen. This is going to be all-out war, whether it's with Hezbollah or Iran or whatever, just some all-out war as a result of what just happened. Put a 10 if you think it's absolutely going to happen, and then a 0. So we'll do 0 to 10. 0 if you don't think it's going to at all be an all-out war. What's your feeling about this? The scale of reaction from Iran and its regional proxies to the attacks of two of Israel's largest foes could determine whether the low-level regional battle tips into a full-scale conflict. Through nearly 10 months of intense war with Hamas in Gaza, Israel has fought a parallel, slower-paced conflict with Hamas's allies across the Middle East, in which all sides have risked major escalation, but ultimately avoided dragging the region into a bigger multi-front war. The attacks on two of Israel's leading foes on Tuesday and Wednesday have created one of the biggest challenges to that equilibrium since the fighting began in October. So that's probably why we should really pay attention to what happens next. The biggest challenges to the equilibrium that we've seen since the war started. This is a big bump in the road that we've encountered. I'd say that this is probably, this could be a hinge point in the war, I guess you could say. Taken together, the seniority of the targets, the sensitive location of the strikes, which was the capital of Iran, and their near simultaneity, I've never seen that word before, were viewed as a particularly provocative escalation that has left the region fearing an even bigger response from Iran and its regional proxies, including Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the militias in Iraq. The scale of that reaction could determine whether the low regional battle between Israel and the Iranian alliance tips into a full-scale, all-out conflict. Iranian military commanders are considering a large combination attack of drones and ballistic missiles on military targets in Israel, but would avoid striking civilian targets, 3 Iranian officials have said. Still, while Iran and Hezbollah are likely to respond, they may yet choose methods that give Israel room to avoid further retaliation, at least for now. And I guess we'll see if that's true. Some analysts said. For months, Hezbollah has appeared wary of a war that would likely devastate Lebanon, while Iran, whose leadership has already said it will respond forcefully, may want to avoid actions that draw the United States into the conflict more directly. Both parties may also decide to view each assassination as a distinct event rather than a combined attack that requires a massive joint response, analysts said. So, I was actually talking to Joni from the Joyous Genealogist channel. Make sure to subscribe to her. I'll put her channel in the chat, the link for it, so you can subscribe. I was talking to her earlier today about this and how you have from time to time experts that have an opinion one way or another. And we were talking about these ones that think that no, it probably won't become a full-scale war. And, I'm not going to dismiss what they're saying. They're experts, but my life experience has taught me that experts don't know everything. And as a general rule, all of us, all of humanity, experts included, are pretty bad at predicting the future. Sometimes some people do a good job. I guess it depends on the situation, but for something like this, I feel like it's too unpredictable. You know, I would love for this war to go away. Of course, I would love for the second coming to happen without having to have a final war. But I remember last year, as I was watching things unfold in Israel with um, the judicial overhaul protests that were going on in the country, and the escalation, or there was like a conflict on the Temple Mount that year during Passover. Passover and Ramadan coincided with each other in that year, and there were skirmishes on the Temple Mount, and afterwards there was a pretty sizable rocket attack from Hamas, and things were getting pretty hairy, you know. And the experts at that time were saying, well, Hamas doesn't want to get into an all-out war with Israel because they're just trying to hold on to power in the Gaza Strip. It's not in their interest. It'd be too costly, or they could lose control of the Gaza Strip. So it's not likely that Hamas wants a bigger war. But then, less than 6 months later, that's exactly what happened. They did this horrific attack on Israel. And I think it was as brutal as it was because that's what they wanted. They did want an all-out war. We looked at all the language that they were using in those early days, and still to this point, I don't know if they were acting alone or if this was part of like a bigger plan coordinated by Iran. But either way, the way that they were talking, it really did seem like they wanted this to be the final war, because they were saying stuff like, you know, Islamic brothers and sisters, the time has come to finally, you know, take care of the Zionists and destroy Israel. Now's the time to put into practice, those of you that are scholars of jihad, now's the time to put into practice the theoretical aspects of jihad. And that's how they were talking, you know. And I think that they actually meant it. I think that they were really hoping that this would become a multi-front war against Israel, and it would be the final war. What I don't know is if they were acting alone or if it was part of a bigger plan, and if that plan is still playing out. As you can see, that side has garnered a lot of support throughout the world with all these protests, and of course with like these countries with secular values, or that have secular governments. You have the international court that's been, you know, there's been this prosecution of Israel for crimes against humanity. So at least from like a psychological standpoint, it feels like in a lot of ways, you know, Iran and its allies are winning as far as like garnering all this support to their side and for the Palestinians. So are they still, is there a master plan? I don't know. Were they hoping that things like this would happen? I don't know. It's unclear. But all I'm trying to say is that the experts don't always know what's going to happen. They may have a really good educated guess, but there's been so many times that they've been wrong. So many times that I've actually been thinking lately about creating a spreadsheet where I keep track of scientists and researchers and scholars and experts, and recording all the different times that they are admittedly, like self-admittedly, wrong. You know, we thought this, but then it turned out to be this. I think that would be a really interesting exercise because I feel like I've seen it so many times. So yeah, I'm going to stick to my opinion that nobody really knows. If you are a human being, there's a good chance that you do not know what's going to happen, and nobody really does. All we can do is just guess. Let's look at the votes. If you're just joining right now, I asked the question: how likely do you think it is that this, what just happened today and yesterday, that this will lead to a full-scale war, whether it's just with Hezbollah or whether it's with Iran or whoever else? Is this going to turn into a full-scale war? So 10 means that you absolutely think that it's going to become a full-scale war. 0 means that you don't at all. So we have like a 9, 10, 8.5, 10, 10, 5, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, and 7, 8. So it seems like those that voted altogether are leaning more toward this will become an all-out war. Okay, let's continue on. Oh, got some more. We have some more coming in. 10, 10, 6, and then one person put 0. Elma Perry, just a thought. What is their view on the end of the world? What are their teachings? I don't know. That's something that I've kind of wanted to get into, but I haven't seen a whole lot of interest from my audience in looking into Islamic beliefs and their views of the end times. I know that they have some kind of figure called the Mahdi, which seems to be almost like their conception of like a Jewish Messiah, I think. Not one that atones for sin or anything like that, of course. They do believe that Jesus is going to come back, that Jesus was a great prophet and that he's going to come back. But in addition to that, from what I understand, I think that there's this figure called a Mahdi, which is like a Messiah that's supposed to come in the end times. A couple more votes, a 9 and a 7. Okay, so what? Oh, and Jenica says 9. And I'm going to vote I'm going to vote 8. I think 8. All right, so I'm just going to go over some of these X posts that I have pulled up. OSINT Defender, the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, has ordered the Iranian armed forces to launch a direct strike. So a direct strike, Iran itself, against Israel as retaliation for last night's assassination of Hamas chief political leader Ismail Haniyeh in the city of Tehran. Okay, we have the this is the official U.S. Embassy of Beirut account on X. The Department of State has raised its Lebanon travel advisory from level 3, reconsider travel, to level 4, do not travel. We recommend that U.S. citizens enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP, to receive alerts. Now, this is something that I think it was earlier this month that we saw with like the UK and Canada. I'm going to see if I can look it up really quick. UK, Lebanon, where, yeah, here we go. Reuters. But this was just a day ago. Britain urges its citizens to leave Lebanon, warning of rapid deterioration risk. But I think it was earlier in the month, or maybe even in June, that they had issued a warning, as well as Canada. We've seen a number of countries telling their citizens to leave Lebanon. Here's a new one from National Post. Leave now. Government tells Canadians in Lebanon there's no guarantee of ... I'm not going to read the rest of it. I believe it was earlier in the month that the United States military put out a statement that they believe that Israel was going to attack Lebanon or Hezbollah by like mid-July. That did not happen, but at this point, I think this is probably going to do it. Sprinter, which is an account, for the other side, they support, the enemies of Israel, but they do put out a lot of good information, like accurate information. Iran, Yemen, Iraq, and Lebanon will respond to Israel at the same time. And then they put New York Times. If that's the case, that'll be really interesting because I don't think that's what happened in April. If I remember right, I think it was only Iran that attacked in April. Maybe there was maybe a few rockets from Hezbollah, but it wasn't like this big like joint response. So I feel like that's another piece to the puzzle here. If Hezbollah joins in on attacking Israel along with Iran, that may tip the scales, and that may start the all-out war with Hezbollah at the very least, because it seems like that's something that's been in the works for a while and something that's been inevitable. So if it's like a joint response, I feel like that would absolutely happen. There'd be a full-scale war at the very least with Hezbollah. Okay. Chad Bailey arrived late. What's the numbers? It's your vote on a scale from 0 to 10 of what do you think is going to happen as a result of this assassination? If you do 0, that means you do not think that there's going to be an all-out war, whether that be with Hezbollah or Iran or some other organization. A 10 means you absolutely think this is going to become a full-blown war with somebody. Let's see, give me just 1 second here. Because I see that we have a special guest in the chat. Everyone make sure to subscribe to Anticipating Christ's Return. Her channel is skyrocketing. I have a spreadsheet that I've shared with other LDS YouTubers of just like all the LDS channels that I can find, and also anti-LDS channels. And I'm keeping track month by month, kind of like a Flood the Earth challenge, like a motivator thing to help other YouTubers want to keep going. And she is climbing the charts. So make sure to subscribe to her. Anticipating Christ's Return. This is Caitlin. And she says, what are we voting on? Okay, so you just heard the likelihood that this will become a full-scale war. So let me look at some of these other numbers. So I already did those. 8, 10, 8, 8, 5, 7, 7, 5 again, 8, and 8. So yeah, I guess it shouldn't be too surprising, because this is my audience. We're all kind of second coming oriented, and so that might kind of we might be a little biased in that, but are we? I really think it's just like logical that'll probably happen. Caitlin with Anticipating Christ's Return says 7 and says, ha ha ha, hardly special, rolling face, crying, but thank you, Jared. Okay, let me continue with these tabs that I have pulled up. Mario Nafal, who also shares a lot of good information. Breaking: Iran considering multiple front attack on Israel. Reports indicate Iran is contemplating a coordinated missile and drone attack on Israel similar to that of April. This potential action could involve launching attacks from Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Iran. And then according to Sprinter, this is the new leader of Hamas. Khaled Marshal became the leader of the Palestinian Hamas movement. So I can only assume that he was probably second in command. And so now by default, he's now in charge. So he is probably going to die at this point. Wouldn't be surprised. Trey Yingst, the Fox News reporter. The strike in Beirut overnight was the first time Israel targeted Hezbollah in the Lebanese capital ever since the war began in October. So you have Israel striking in the capital of both Lebanon and Iran. I feel like that's a pretty big escalation. They took out one of the top people for Hezbollah. They took out one of the top people for, or the top person for Hamas, their leader. And they took out the Hamas leader in the capital of Iran, where he should have been theoretically the safest. But Israel has said that no matter where you go, they can reach you. And then just a quick side note. Kind of interesting that this is happening. So this is from Volcaholic account. Large forest fire in Rome, Italy. Nearby buildings evacuated. I've been paying a lot of attention to fires ever since I started this channel. There have been some really interesting fires, both record-breaking fires and also fires in interesting locations, as well as fires that weren't necessarily record-breaking but destroyed entire towns, like the Paradise, California fire, as well as the Lahaina fire. I'm gonna have to do another video about that sometime, but last month, for like a whole month or two, I felt like all my videos were just about fires that were going on. There was that pretty dramatic fire in, what was that place called? Kelowna, British Columbia. And then there was like medical school, Washington near Spokane, that about half the town was destroyed. But anyway, we were just talking about a fire this year that was going on behind Ensign Peak. And that fire was going on Pioneer Day, the day that commemorates Brigham Young seeing Ensign Peak. And by seeing Ensign Peak, because he had seen it before in vision, he knew that that was the place. So this year, there's a fire behind that peak. And on that day, the 177th anniversary of the Saints entering the valley, it was announced that Salt Lake would be the host city of the 2034 Winter Olympics. What was I just about to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to, okay, let me check a couple things. I'm going to go to Zoom Earth. I'm sure at this point, the, if it'll load, I'm sure at this point the Ensign Peak fire has been put out. The last I checked, like a couple days ago, it was 89% contained. But while we're talking about it, let's just check really quick. Sorry, it's taking a minute. I think I have too many tabs open. Beyond just this window that I have open, I have all these other windows and tabs open behind that. I don't know if that's why it's lagging. Let me just close out a few of these other things. But I'm going to be really curious to see if we have any record-breaking fires this year. There already has been one. Texas, it was a man-made fire, but Texas saw its largest wildfire in state history this year. But so far, I haven't seen any other ones. Okay, yeah. Zoom Earth and the ArcGIS wildfire map are not showing that fire anymore behind Ensign Peak. So it seems like that's done. Oh, it shows up on the U.S. wildfire activity web map on arcgis.com, but it says that it's 100% contained. So I guess it's over now. And based on the boundaries, I'll just pull that up. Based on what they have depicted here, it doesn't look like it did get to Ensign Peak, but it was just right behind it. But it's 100% contained. Close out of that, close out of that. Let me just see if there's anything else to talk about before I go. If there's any other updates in regards to this situation. Here's something. Let me look at this link first. So this link takes you to a Hebrew language, like a news channel. This is from, here, I'll just put it on the screen. So the link takes you to this channel. I could translate it, but I'll just go ahead and trust the post. This is from Faye Tukes News. Israel has sent messages through diplomatic channels to Lebanon and Iran, where Israel says they are ready to go to the point of all-out war if Hezbollah and Iran respond in a way that will severely damage Israel, according to Israel's Channel 12. So, if the experts are right, if Iran does not want to go to war or have an all-out war with Israel and Hezbollah, then maybe they're basically saying, look, we'll do all-out war if you severely damage us. So you can send some rockets, just don't severely damage us. And so maybe that gives them an off-ramp so they can still do their attack, but it won't turn into all-out war. I'll repost that. I think that's probably going to be it. This is from Dr. Ellie David. Prediction: Israel is waiting for Islamic Republic's retaliation, quote unquote, to give it an excuse to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities in response. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, and we'll have to see if Iran makes good on its word from April. It said that if this ever happened again, because back in like March or April, Israel killed 2 of Iran's generals. Iran did its attack, which largely failed. Maybe it was designed to fail, but be dramatic. But they said that if Israel ever did that again, then the response would be it would be immediate and like to the maximum. That would be like a maximum response. But that may have just been, saber rattling, just, bluster. Let me go to the chat and see what everybody's saying here. Plaid says, didn't realize till reading Assassination News, the last name of Hamas leader in Gaza has an interesting surname. The top Hamas leader in Gaza is Yahya Sinwar, who masterminded the October 7th attack. Oh yeah, like Sinwar. Yeah, there's been like a lot of people, like memes and stuff about that. But yeah, that is kind of interesting. From agony to light, why even identify a leader? A giant kick me sign. I assume that you're referring to the new leader of Hamas. I don't know if like you can hide that. um, I think that'd be hard to be like a secret leader and people not know or not have that get out. Unless you had some kind of like secret combination thing going on where you have, a shadow government or something like that, or powerful players in the background. But I wouldn't be feeling too good right now if I were him. Tammy Bentley says Ensign Peak fire is out. New fire in Ivans today. Plaid says, curious about Park Fire 2024 in California. That was threatening Paradise, California, biggest active wildfire in U.S. Oh, are you talking about that? There's like that fire that it produced tornadoes. Wildfires, a lot of times they do produce their own weather because when you heat the air, you create convection, which is like the upward movement of air. And when the air is moist, once it reaches a certain altitude, it condenses as long as there's, particles for condensation to take place. So they create their own weather systems typically, but this one was so crazy that it actually produced tornadoes. I just want to look at that really quick. Park Fire, 8,200 structures in Tehama, Butte counties threatened. Okay, threatened by wildfire. If it destroyed that many structures, that would be pretty notable. Let me go back to, let's see, let me close out of this stuff. I'm going to go back to the wildfire map. I know that wildfires are starting to they're starting to take off because it's starting to be that time of year, especially August. Let's see, go there. Weather maps, wildfire activity map. Yeah, so far I haven't heard anything about like any record-breaking wildfires this year except for the wildfire in Texas. It was the biggest wildfire in Texas state history. Here, let me put this on the screen. So there's the Park incident. It's at 389,000 acres. So it's big. I think this is the one. You know what? I wonder if California is still keeping up this thing. There's this top 20 wildfires in Californian history. I don't know if they still have that website. Dang. It was like the the California, it was like a government website where it had the top 20 largest wildfires in California state history. Dang it. Well, I'm not going to find it this time, but anyway, that's pretty large. How big? Okay, how large was the August complex fire? That was 1 million acres. Oh, here's something from Axios. Park Fire burns its way into California's 10 biggest in state history. Okay, well this will do. Okay, so this is California. The August complex is the biggest. That was in 2020. Dixie Fire in 2021. Mendocino or Mendocino Complex 2018. So so this is, it's like the fifth, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now it's the fifth largest. So that's notable. I'm not going to pull up my spreadsheet right now, but ever since President Nelson became president of the church, uh, record-breaking wildfires have just there's been a lot of them, like really big ones. Okay, and this must be the Ivins, Utah fire, Silver King incident. It's at 18,000 acres. Okay, there's a bunch up here in Oregon, in Washington. This one's 293, so that's pretty big. Monkey Creek, 110. Here's one in Washington. Bighorn. Oh, it's at 51. All right, whatever. Okay. Betty. Oh, I haven't heard from Betty Macro, the 97th, for a long time. What's going on, Jared? It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm trying to watch everything of yours. I can because I haven't gotten to see anything in a while. The world is insane. Capital all caps. Yep. Anticipating Christ's return. It was about a week ago. I don't know if you did a video on it or not. Oh, I missed that. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the chat. Rebecca Sorensen, what do you know about the Eastern Gate in Jerusalem opening up? Supposed not to open till Christ comes. You know, somebody sent me an email about that. But I didn't really get to look into it, so I don't know. I don't think it's like open. If anything, maybe there's like a crack or something like that. I'm gonna have to look into that, and if it's something substantial, then I'll do a video about it. Jan's talking about that too. Well, let me just do a quick search and see if it's making any news. Golden Gate, Jerusalem. There aren't any news stories about it. It's also known as the Shushan Gate because it faced the Persian capital of Susa or Shusha. I've done videos about it because early on in the channel, we noticed that the church symbol, if you take the bottom part that has the name of the church in it, just the top part, it fits perfectly within this arch. And yeah, arches, you know, they're popular in antiquity, but there are all different sizes and dimensions of arches. Some are more narrow, but the one that the church, the shape of the church symbol, the top part of it, it fits in perfectly into this arch. And then if you do include the bottom part with the name of the church, that shape fits in perfectly in like proportionally in the doors, the front doors of the Salt Lake Temple, because there's that kind of like tradition with both of these entrances that in this case with the Golden Gate, that Messiah, like the Jews believe that Messiah is going to come through there. Christians, I don't think it's necessarily our doctrine in our church, but there's a general Christian tradition that when Christ comes to the Mount of Olives, that he'll enter in through the Golden Gate right here. And then with the Salt Lake Temple, the front doors are closed, locked. That's not how the public enters into the temple. And we've read a couple things that suggest that, you know, there's like some symbolism of that it'll be Christ that enters in through the front doors of the Salt Lake Temple when he comes again. So, I'm gonna do this last one, then I gotta go. I have some other things to do. So Caitlin from Anticipating Christ's Return, I asked about if you had seen the pro-Palestine riots in D.C. when Netanyahu was there and they graffitied "Hamas is coming" on a monument. Yes, I did do a video about that. That was also on Pioneer Day, so there were kind of like three unusual things that were going on Pioneer Day: the fire behind Ensign Peak, Salt Lake City being announced as the host city of the 2034 Olympics, and then Netanyahu making that speech to Congress while you had this big protest at Columbus Circle, which is outside Union Station, right, not too far from the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, and I saw that, and I made fun of that. Hamas is coming. I think Hamas is retreating and just trying to stay alive, and their leader just got killed yesterday. So I don't think Hamas is coming to the person that graffitied that on the monument. But I don't know. this is just, life is so weird. Living in these days is so weird. So, okay. So I guess we've come to the conclusion. Most of us feel like this is going to lead to an all-out war, at least to some degree, whether it's with Hezbollah and or Iran or whatever. So I think that's a pretty good guess. My own guess is I voted for 8, that'll likely happen. I would tend to think that it would happen within the next like 24 to 48 hours. But I guess we'll see. And if it does happen, this is going to be a completely new phase to the war. If it goes on to be a full-scale war, the rest of this year is going to be really interesting if that's the case. So, Ugg says 0. Okay, well, thank you, Ugg. All right, guys, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to subscribe to Anticipating Christ's Return. She's a Second Coming channel. She has good content. And also make sure to check out Joyous Genealogist. She's really good, too. And I will talk to you guys later.